Since this is going to be 2 tutorials in one, I decided to skip the intro for this video, and we're going to dive right on into the first tutorial. We're going to start with Tweedle, and you're going to need tan, plum, pink, ballerina pink, and just regular Sculpey yellow. We're going to start with the plum. I just used the old before I used the new, that's why you see 2 in this picture. And then I pre-rolled all the balls I would need, which is 5 right here. We're going to start with the large one, rolling it back and forth between your thumb and index finger until you get this little bowling pin kind of shape. After you get that, go ahead and press it gently against your work surface. Sorry it's blurry. But just press it gently so it'll be flat on the bottom but still retain its shape on the top. Next we're going to move on to these 2 little balls right here. Roll them into very small teardrop shapes, like so. Then get some kind of tool to where you can indent the earlobe part. I just had this pointed tool to just go ahead and push it down in there for the pointy part facing out, and make 2 little inside parts. Just use whatever you have on hand. Then go ahead and stick this onto the head, which is the more narrow part of the body. Then I just took a dotting tool and dotted I can't talk today. And dotted the 2 eye sockets. Next I took the last 2 purple balls and rolled these into very medium sized, I guess, teardrop shapes. They're about 1 inch, a little bit over 1 inch long. Then I just pressed them with the palm of my hand so they'd stay round on the top and be flat on the bottom. This is what they look like. I also went on ahead and kind of shaped them to the shape I wanted them to be. For the wings, this is her wings. Then I just cut it off so it's flat so it attached to the body more easily. And then taking my X-Acto blade, I booped it over and over and over and over until I got these feathery effects. Now we're done with the plum. We're going to move on to the pink, which I just remembered I actually changed from a ballerina pink to more like a hot pink. It's not quite hot pink. I don't know the color of this. I think it's like rose pink. It just needs to be a little bit darker for my taste. And I went on ahead and pre-rolled all the balls I would need. The first 2 with the smaller ones at the top, I rolled these into very weird oblong pointed shapes. Then I just cut them all flat and stuck them to the top of her head because she has these little feathery things. Next, I'm going to take the other 2 teeny tiny balls that I have at the top right there, the left and the right, and I'm going to roll these out really, really thin into little log shapes. Very, very thin. Well, you can call them snake-like shapes. And then I just rolled those out flat. And these are going to be the back part of her wings, so I just put it underneath her wings, like so. And what you're going to do after this is take your X-Acto blade and cut off the ends, the excess parts on the top and the bottom. And then just like we did before, using your X-Acto blade, just boop, 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 and make the feathers go in texture. I don't know how to describe that. And then I just took some X-Acto glue or some kind of glue and glued it to the body. And I didn't worry about metal wires because I used the glue. Next, we're going to take the last 3 balls, and you're going to roll these into pointed shapes just like the ones on the tuft of her head. And these are going to be her tail, so I just stuck them on her bottom, and then just kind of bent them at an angle to the shape I wanted them. I went on ahead and got out my wooden base that I'm putting her on to make sure the size was proportional to the base. Next, I moved on to the yellow, which all we're making with the yellow is her eyes, so you just need 2 very, very small balls, and just put them in the eye sockets. Make sure they're as even as possible. Next, we're going to go on to the tan. You're also going to need 2 more balls. You'll see that later that I forgot. No, 1 more ball. I forgot to make the ball for her beak. Anyways, starting with the 2 small balls, I just rolled these into little log shapes and then just cut off the excess. Well, what you need is the 2 round pieces on each end. Those are her thumbs. And then I just stuck these onto her body, like so. Next, I took the 2 big balls that I had at the top, and I cut these, well, I rolled these into little teardrop shapes. And then I cut off the bottom so it would be flat and stuck the flat part against her body and used the X-Acto blade to indent her tootsies. Now I went on ahead and painted the part on her tail that needs to be red, and used mica powder for the other part because I don't have red mica powder. So I had to get creative. And once I got done, it looked like this. The orange looks a lot more covered in person, to say the least. It's not so transparent. Next, I went back to the tan clay because I realized I forgot her beak. I rolled this into a very pointed teardrop shape, and then I took my index finger and pressed it down very gently, kind of like you do with the palm of your hand with the other balls, so it would stay round on the top, be flat on the bottom. And then after I got done with that, I cut off the little excess at the end that I didn't need, and then I went on ahead and stuck the flat part to her face, And I used the X-Acto blade to make a slit down the middle of it so it looked like her mouth was open just slightly. Next, we're done with her for the moment. We're going to go ahead and hop on over the Potbelly. What you need is green apple, Granny Smith green, I think is what it is, Pearl-Ex green, and regular green. We're going to start with the Granny Smith green apple kind of green, and you're just going to need 2 balls. The bigger one's going to be his body, so you're going to roll it similar to what you did with Tweedle, but make it more narrow because it's a plant. You know, it needs to be more narrow. It could even be more narrow than this, but I didn't want to make the integrity of it just fall apart. Because I'm going to put a toothpick in it later, but I didn't want it to fall apart in the meantime. Then I just took my X-Acto blade and carved out where I needed the mouth to be. Then I took the other ball that we had set to the side and rolled this into a teardrop shape. And then, just like I did with the mouth on that one, I cut out where I wanted the mouth to be. And then where the flat part is on the end, I just stuck it to the body of the other one and blended it together. And I smoothed out the inside of the mouse with the ball too, just to make it nice and pretty looking. Next, we're going to do a whole lot of painting because it just looks better that way. First, I took the black and painted the inside of the mouths. Also, I just didn't have the right kind of mica powders. I wanted mica powders for this, but paint had to do the job. Then I took the darker shade of green and painted on, no, the lighter shade of green, and painted on the, like, accents she has all over her body and her back. I say she, but it's a plant. And I painted it on in the front. And then once that was dry, I took the lighter shade of green and dotted on polka dots. Cute, right? And simple. Next, I took these little tweezers, some kind of cutting tool like scissors or something, and a bunch of toothpicks. And I just cut the edges of all the toothpicks, and I used them as teeth. I just used crazy glue and stick them very carefully inside the mouth. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to the Pearl-Ex pearly green color. And you're just going to need 1 ball. This is going to be their mouths or their lips, because they got some thick lips. Just roll this out as long and thin as possible. As you can see, it's pretty much as thin as the lines are, so it's super thin. And then I just wrapped it around the mouth holes and cut off the excess and blend it together at the top and the bottom. And next I moved on to the dark green color, and we're going to repeat like you just did and roll out a very long, thin, snake-like shape. I was also going to mention the toothpicks. Keep the edges. You can use them to, like, you know, put inside the sculptures later if you need a little structure, which we'll do that in just a minute. And then I cut off little circles and wrapped them around the plant. I'm all over the place today, my bad. Now I took 3 dark green balls and rolled them into teardrop shapes. Then pressed them down gently with my fingers, just to make them round on the top and flat on the bottom. You're literally learning the same steps over and over. And that's what it looks like once you're done. Then take your X-Acto blade and indent a line down the center and then up to the top to the bottom with lines on the side. So it makes like a leaf effect. Then after that, I took some metal wires and put it inside the plant. Make sure you put some glue at the end of these wires just for structural integrity. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the brown before we put the leaves on. We're going to start with the largest ball here. You're going to roll it into this very oblong shape. It kind of looks like an egg, but it's a little less rounded. Then take it and press it against your work surface until it's nice and flat and you get the shape that you want. Now, like I mentioned earlier, get one of your toothpicks you cut the tips off of and stick it in the plant pot. And then stick that in his plant thing. And that way it'll keep him and his neck staying straight up. Next, I took the medium-sized ball of brown clay and I just rolled it out nice and flat. Then I took my long blade and cut it into a gigantic rectangle. And then I just took it and wrapped it around the top of the pot to make it look like the lip of a ceramic pot. And you just cut off the back of it, the excess part, and blend it together. After that, I took the last ball and rolled it out into a very, very long snake-like shape yet again. Then I just cut off little bitty pieces and just stuck them on the metal wires. It's kind of hard to see in this picture, but they're on all 3 of the metal wires. And then I just used some crazy glue and went on ahead and glued the leaves to the little sticks. And then I took a dotting tool and then just indented or dotted the little belly button he has, because he has a belly button. Weird, isn't it? But that's just how he is. Then I took rubbing alcohol and Q-tips and cleaned off his little pot belly because it was really, really dirty. And then that's what he looks like once he's all cleaned up and nice and pretty. And then I got ready to bake. I baked for 350 degrees for 12 minutes in a gas oven, or 9 minutes at 350 in an electric oven. Just depends on what you use. Then while they were baking, I took the bases I had and I painted them green. And ignore that stain, that's the clay. It leaves it residue from the oils in it onto the wood, but just glue right over that and you won't even notice it. Then I took my E6000 after everything was cooled off and ready to be glued, and I glued them to the bases. After I did that, I took my black acrylic paint to dot the eyes, the pupils for Tweedle, and that's what it looked like after I dotted the pupils. After that dries, go ahead and take white acrylic paint and dot the little glimmers of light in her eyes. And again, I just took a dotting tool to do this, and I dotted 2 dots up at the top and 2 dots down at the bottom. Adorable, right? It just gives the cutest look when you do this. Also, it fits the game style. Then after that, I just glazed with 2 coats of polyacrylic floor varnish, and you're good to go when you're done. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I will try to do one more My Singing Monster tutorial, and that may be it for the moment. I will see you guys in my next video, either Wednesday or Friday. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye-bye, my bunnies. Thanks for watching.